Testing 1, 2.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the expressed written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Monday, July 2nd, Tuesday, July 3rd, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network, including the Deep Talk radio network, and we welcome you to tonight's show. You can also watch us live on Periscope.tv every Monday through Friday. Now, I know there are those trying to listen in on Periscope. My microphone feed is not working on there tonight. You can hear Everett speak, but you won't hear me. You got to listen through Spreaker or Deep Talk or TalkStream Live. Wherever it may be, you will get the show no matter what. Just do me the favor, when you go over to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Hit that subscribe button. You can listen to all of our archives for free. Our website being rebuilt is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you. You could rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. We're happy to start a brand new week in a brand new month. And we're going to get things going right now, because every now and again you have someone who commits to the show. Then when the show is ready to go on the air, well, you just can't find them. Doesn't happen often, as we were supposed to be talking all things paranormal in Las Vegas tonight. But for some reason, our guest, Aaron Elliott, otherwise known as the Paranormal Man, just couldn't make it. We'd like to know why. But sometimes, you never know, life gets in the way. We're hoping nothing bad has come of it, because it's a little eerie when someone doesn't return messages, especially when they supposed to come on the show. But nonetheless, the show must go on, so in a mad scramble of filling the programming, we thought we'd start off the week on a lighter note, reading some of the weird and strange headlines that pack the news, but maybe never get the airtime, which means we're talking with Everett Themer from Spaced Out Radio's news section called The Encounter Online. We are also inviting you to play along as well. See, it's World UFO Day. So we're going to be talking about that and many other subjects that come across the table. And once again, we're going to take your calls as well. 1-702-302-4556. That's 1-702-302-4556. Everett Themer from The Encounter Online. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I don't know. I'm thinking the people in Vegas may still be a little bit upset that there is absolutely no Stanley Cup there, and that's the reason why.
Hey, they had a good run, though, didn't they?
They sure did. They absolutely sure did. All right. I do want to remind everybody that there are audio issues over on Periscope. They can hear you. They cannot hear me. So make sure if you're listening in, we do know about the problem that is going on. So we got to continue a show, though. We can't stop the show just because Periscope isn't working properly, and that's okay. Nonetheless, we're going to get into some weird, strange news tonight, Everett, because it is UFO Day today, World UFO Day. I didn't even know that there was a World UFO Day.
Yeah, you know, I had heard about it. I think I hear about it every year, and then I forget about it until it pops up that day in my news feed somewhere. They have a big problem with publicity for this thing, don't they?
Well, you know, you'd think with that many people who are having experiences, they may want to start like a council or something along that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but, you know, it's the anniversary of Roswell. They could play off that so well and really publicize it. But like I said, I kind of forget about it every year until, well, today, you know, until it pops up.
You know what else it's an anniversary for is we're on the East Coast, they're already there, but in 1967, so 51 years ago tomorrow for us on the West Coast, in St. Paul, Alberta, a gentleman named Paul Hellyer, who was Canada's defense minister, in celebrating Canada's 100th anniversary, had literally, cut the ribbon on a UFO landing pad in St. Paul, Alberta, basically saying, "Welcome to Canada, we accept everybody here." Now, for all intents and purposes, we do know that a UFO has never landed on that pad. But coincidentally, I remember when I had Paul Hellyer on the show way back when, and he said at the time of that, when he was cutting the ribbon, he knew nothing about UFOs. Now, I'm a little highly suspect about that, but the interesting part about it is, just 3 months after this, on October 3rd, 1967, Canada has its own Roswell in the Shag Harbour incident, where, once again, Paul Hellyer is still Minister of Defense. How coincidental is that?
That is very coincidental. It's very weird. And the Shag Harbour event is so underreported and under-talked about.
Why do you think that is, Ev? Is it because it's not in the United States? Because I think if Shag Harbour, Nova Scotia, and we'll get into that momentarily here, I think if Shag Harbour, Nova Scotia had happened in the United States, let's say it happened somewhere in New York or California, all right, it would have got a lot more play, guys. It would have got a lot more play.
I think so, too. You could probably answer this better than I could, though. Why? Well, two questions. When he opened this UFO port, was it taken seriously?
Yeah, apparently it was. Apparently it was, for all, a good laugh that Canada welcomes everybody, because we are built on immigration, much like the United States is. Right? It's built on immigration, and there's a lot of proud people here on it. So, it made a lot of sense in order to try and, capitalize, saying, hey, Canada invites everybody here. We're just a cool country that makes things happen. Come, even aliens, come on down and celebrate Canada's centennial anniversary with us. And now it's like you learn about Paul Hellyer and you think, okay, here's a guy saying that extraterrestrials are already on this planet, been visiting this planet for thousands of years. And in the same breath, he is saying now that he had no information on the UFO front while he was in office. I find that hard to believe. Others believe that he is telling the truth on that. But it is coincidental. I don't think so either. Because he didn't come out with all of this stuff until like the early 2000s.
Right. Late
90s, early 2000s is when he came out saying, I think there's something going on. By then, he was way past his prime as a politician. I mean, the dude is smart as nails. He's 94 years old and still rough, gruff. Like, I bet you he probably steps in the boxing ring still and kicks the crap out of a bunch of 20-year-olds. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. But, I mean, nonetheless, I really do believe that, with Shag Harbour and the anniversary coming up of the 51st anniversary, he had to have known something. Especially the way with Shag Harbour, where the RCMP were involved in that. RCMP members saw the incident. The Canadian Navy saw the incident. The United States Navy saw the incident because it happened right in a border area. It's a little bit strange nonetheless on World UFO Day.
It is. And, I have to confess that even in my first years of looking into UFOs and things like that, Shag Harbour for me was not on the radar. It didn't really seem to start popping up at all for me until about 10 years ago. And then it kind of started making the rounds of some of the different paranormal shows that were coming on. But I virtually grew up not knowing about Shag Harbour. And it's just, it's not that far over the border.
I fully understand. And, that's part of the issue that we are having right now with everything. So just so you know, our Periscope people who are watching, I'm actually going to cut that feed tonight because if you can't really hear me, it's not really a point of having it on. So I'm cutting the Periscope feed for tonight, and we'll just run it the old school way where radio is actually supposed to be faceless, which I much prefer anyways, but nonetheless, just the way it is. So, Everett, why do you think that it's so downplayed? Is it because there is actually more information out there from eyewitnesses than Roswell? Do you think it's because it's a Canadian thing? Or do you think that it's just because, the bigger incidents outside of Roswell tend to get swept under the rug? Let's use a little tinfoil here.
I think it's because Roswell was an American thing. There was so much media and controversy kind of surrounding Roswell. I think that part of it is, many Americans don't really pay attention to what goes on in Canada. So even if it got reported somewhere, it was possibly ignored. I think it might just be a little bit of a sort of an American ego kind of thing that they have or we have. Roswell, we don't need to look at anything else. At least back, 20, 30 years ago.
I agree. And I'm really hoping that one day we get a little bit more information about that because there is so much good work that has been done, even by American UFO scholars. I was talking to, I was sitting at the Architects of the New Paradigm this past weekend in Vancouver, and we were watching Richard Dolan speak on it, and he actually brought up Shag Harbour, that it's a little bit embarrassing to the UFO community that with all of the information that is out there, especially in the archives of the Canadian government and the defense budget or the defense archives and everything like that, like it's sitting right there for the taking. And it just seems like, there is absolutely no grounds for anybody to really want to delve into it more than a couple of Canadians and a couple of scholars who say, hey, maybe we shouldn't make this the forgotten one. Yet that's where we are. And even if you talk to mainstream ufologists today, Most of them don't even know what Shag Harbour is. And you have
that's
to.
A little scary.
It is. It is. It kind of reminds me, Everett, because I know I'm babbling here. But it reminds...
Well, good. We got 3 hours to fill.
Yeah, we do. It reminds me a little bit of the Roswell crash. How many studies, books, researchers, documentaries, and even people on this show have we heard talking about Roswell?
I don't even know.
Lots.
Everybody seems to like to talk about Roswell.
But why doesn't anybody talk about the second crash? You never hear people talking about the second crash. And even some people, and we've accidentally outed them on this show. I'm not going to bring up names, but people who've done documentaries on Roswell had never heard of the crash of San Augustine.
Do you think that's because the investigation on that wasn't so public and people just didn't notice that it had taken place?
Or it's just very poor research.
Could be.
It's one of the two. I mean, when you're researching something, Everett, and you've been a journalist and a blogger for a long time and been involved in media in a long time, I mean, you know as well as I do, research is everything. Research is everything.
It is, and sometimes it takes you down paths that, you're looking at one thing and you find a little piece of something you need to check out and research kind of sideways to that, and you go down that path for a little while. So I can say people should be aware of it, especially anybody writing about Roswell or documenting Roswell. But I think also, I guess for some of the more inexperienced researchers and the public in general, it really went under the radar, even with, the media at the time wasn't covering it like they were covering Roswell. So I can understand how some people would miss it.
It is very understandable. And there are a limited amount of witnesses to it. Gerald Anderson, who has been on this show before, and, he's now 74 years old. He was 5 years old when this happened. Says he touched one of the beings. Says that he touched the craft. Remembers everything like yesterday.
Has anybody done a FOIA request on any of this?
Well, you don't have to. It's all right there. You can. Sorry, I got Shag Harbour and San Augustine caught up. This has been studied since the 90s, since Gerald Anderson came out. Stanton Friedman has written about it, although Stanton goes on different accounts. The late Art Campbell, who was on this show first discussing the crash of San Augustine, he passed away last year, God rest his soul. He had discussed it on this show. Gerald Anderson had been on this show a couple of times. And it's one of those things where I think there is plenty of information out there on it, but it's been swept under the rug. I mean, you think about it. How many Roswell witnesses who saw the craft are alive today?
There's only one or two, correct? If even that, because Marcel died a couple years ago. Jesse Marcel Jr., I mean.
Yes. Yes.
I think
there isn't many.
I'm not sure. That Undertaker that kind of popped up long after the fact has died in the last few years. The nurse died. So you really only have a couple, if that, anymore.
I realize that. And here we have an eyewitness in Gerald Anderson, and nobody's talking to him. And he's like, yeah, call me. I just got an email from one of the ladies that he works with, Renee. All right. I can read it to you. Where is it here? Here it is. Renee Karkin sent me an individual. She goes, she wanted to ask about my archive program when Gerald was on back in February 2015. And anyway, she goes, meanwhile, no one in the UFO community has taken advantage of Gerald still being alive to talk to him about being the last living admitted witness to the Roswell-era events. I am so tired of the Stanton Friedmans of the world riding on the crest of the waves they create to fame. Same with Linda Moulton Howe. Meanwhile, Art Campbell, a guest of yours in November 2014, died last October. Anyway, if you could just direct me a step-by-step menu, I'll tell her where it is. But you know what? I'm going to reach out to Gerald again. I want to talk to Gerald.
I think that would be fun.
Totally. I think it's absolutely fun. It is absolutely fun, and I think we need to talk to him. You know, if nobody else is going to talk to him, let's make it our business. Let's make it our business.
I still stand by the idea. Has anybody requested files on this incident from the government? I mean, sure, there's people out there and, you know, information out there, but what has the government said about this? Because really, I'm familiar with the basics of it, but I don't know what the government's position is on it, or even how they investigated or how they claim to investigate or not investigate it.
Fully understand. I fully understand. I mean, I don't know what information is truly out there. I do have a book on it. I do have to read that book again. It's been a while. But nonetheless, you know, it's something that, you know, we need to bring up. And if we got an eyewitness, we'll bring him back on. I'll put in that request. I'm going to write that down right now. But nonetheless, it is World UFO Day around the world. I wonder how many UFOs are going to be seen today.
Well, how did you celebrate World UFO Day?
Well, I made myself a new tinfoil hat.
Excellent.
You know, just in case the invasion begins. I saw signs. I saw Independence Day. You never know when that invasion's going to begin, even though you couldn't see crap through the clouds up here today. Got to single digits in cold today. 8 degrees Celsius. It was cold up here, man. I almost had to put pants on. Break my record of wearing shorts here.
I'm sitting here in a cool and balmy, well, it's like 80 outside right now. And that's about as cool as it'll get, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So
Derek,
that's...
Go ahead. What is
that's
that?
What, about...
27 degrees Celsius, about there.
Okay, no. Yeah, I guess it would be. God,
Yeah.
this Celsius to Fahrenheit stuff screws me up every time.
Well, when are you Americans going to come up and start thinking metric? It's the way to go. The entire world is. You're like on your own island there.
I'm just worried about trying to figure out all that metric time and stuff.
Time is the same, my friend. You still go by seconds and minutes and hours and days.
Yeah, but that doesn't fit your metric motto of everything broken into even tens and 100s and things like that.
You know what's really screwed up? Our stoves are still in Fahrenheit.
Why?
I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day. Why are Canadian stoves still in Fahrenheit? That might be the question of the day. If you have an answer, call in at 1-702-302-4556. Why are Canadian stoves still on Fahrenheit when we've been metric for 50 years as a country?
And you know what's funny about that is I was tooling around the internet looking for a couple recipes that I wanted to make. And I found one and I downloaded it. And the temperature was in Celsius. So your recipes up there, at least some of them have to be written in the Celsius scale. Why would you have, unless are all your stoves imported? Do you guys not make cooking stoves up there?
Everything up here is imported, man. We're an import-export nation. We give you all the funny people, some of the bad music, and we take your stoves.
You send us that weird Canadian whiskey, too.
What's wrong? What weird Canadian whiskey? Crown Royal?
It's all blended and spelled funny.
Which one?
what is it? There's Black Velvet. There's, I don't know. I usually avoid them.
Oh, you never avoid the Canadian whiskey, man. That's just bad juju for you.
But why do you spell it funny? You
Whiskey.
take out the E.
Now I got to see. Like, what are you saying? That we spell whiskey funny?
Every Canadian whiskey I've seen, I believe it's spelled funny. It's like the
Whiskey.
E is missing.
Jack Daniels spells it with an E, and we don't? Hold on. Let me check out Crown Royal.
Well, Crown Royal doesn't count.
But is it spelt without a Y or an E? Apparently it is. Why did we put an E or a U in everything? Why did we take the E out of whiskey? That just looks wrong. Absolutely looks wrong.
It does, and it's hard to drink. I mean, I notice these things, and it's uncomfortable to drink something that's spelled wrong.
What are you talking about? How do you judge a drink on that? By the way, I just went into the Crown Royal website, and I had to show ID and type in my birth date in order to enter their website. Are you kidding me? Lo and behold, the bottle is spelled W-H-I-S-K-Y. With Sky.
You've never noticed that before.
I've never noticed that before. That's terrible. That's just terrible.
Now, can you guys get straight whiskey up there? Or every Canadian whiskey I've seen down here seems to be blended.
Crown Royal. Oh, Crown Royal's blended. Hold on. Let's take a look here. Blended Deluxe. I didn't realize there was so much Crown Royal out there. This is terrible. It shows you how much I drink. I don't even know. Don't even know. But nonetheless, I'm still curious about the whole stove thing. Why is it in Fahrenheit? Bill Cardwell saying that his stove is in Celsius. I don't believe you, Bill. Bill's all happy these days because his Toronto Maple Leafs made the big signing in NHL free agency with John Tavares coming home to play in Toronto. So he is on cloud nine. I think he's already sitting on Yonge Street in Toronto with his lawn chairs waiting until a year from now to see if there's a parade. He's already claiming his seats. That's how excited he is. Apparently, there's 1 million people with lawn chairs along Yonge Street right now in Toronto because they think the parade is coming. Yet they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967.
Ouch. How are those people going to survive the winter?
Oh, they'll bundle up. They're Canadian. They're tough, but they are from Toronto, so, you know.
Keep warm with their funny spelled whiskey.
Probably. A little schnapps also kicks in every now and again as well.
Schnapps. Is that like schnapps?
Same thing. Same thing. Did you just snort there? But anyways, I got an interesting story here that I wanted to pass your way because we're going to be doing weird and wacky news in between phone calls. If you want to call in, it's 1-702-302-4556. That number, once again, 1-702-302-4556. So I'm hanging around the internet today doing the whole interweb search party thing for stories. You know how we work it around here, Everett. And apparently in Indiana, there was a big drug bust, like over 100 people arrested, just absolutely crazy. And they seized an unknown amount, well, apparently the police know, but the media don't know, of ecstasy pills. Now, these ecstasy pills were orange, shaped in the head of Donald Trump, with the words "Great Again" on them. Like, these people who are creating these ecstasy pills, never mind the poisons that they are working with on a daily basis to try and get these things out. How much time on their hands do they have to have in order to create a mold to make Donald Trump ecstasy pills, man?
Who wants to put Donald Trump in their mouth?
I don't know. Not me. Even if it was a Flintstone vitamin, I don't know if I would.
I don't know. I've never done ecstasy. I've never bought ecstasy. I don't even know if I know any ecstasy dealers. But I don't know. That just seems like a waste of time.
Anyways, yeah, they were busted, and they were pretty much like 100 and some people busted, like 129 people busted in this raid for Donald Trump ecstasy pills.
Well, it is a good marketing tool. It seems as though every line or form or manufacturer of ecstasy kind of gives it its own name and I believe particular shape or color of pill. So why not Donald Trump?
I understand that, but you have to create a mold. That takes time. Like, who sits there and thinks, oh, this would be a great ecstasy pill? The Democrats are going to not buy it. The extremes are not going to be buying it. Whatever they're calling the millennials these days, the dreamers or whatever, you're killing your market. You're killing your sales market by this, man.
I don't know. Some would say the Republicans would eat that stuff up.
True, but how many Trump supporters are actually Trump, ecstasy users? These are the people who think pot is icky.
I'm not up on my demographics of drug users, but I am willing to research that for you and come back with an answer.
I don't know if you heard this story. We're going to stick in with Donald Trump. I wanted to get this one in, okay? Because, I don't want to make this too political, and it really has nothing to do with him specifically. It just happens to be tied to it. Guy named Darren Hodge was the manager at the Tea House restaurant in Stanley Park in Vancouver, okay? And if you've ever been to Vancouver, Stanley Park is literally rated the most beautiful city park in the world. Like, it even tops Central Park in New York. It is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Anyways, there was an American tourist in the restaurant where Mr. Hodge refused to serve a customer wearing a Make America Great Again hat. He has been fired. Says he doesn't regret it because he doesn't like Donald Trump. The bright red hat, of course, came into prominence when, Trump was running for election. Now, you know what? I'm not a fan of this. I think he should have been fired. All right? I really do. I mean, he goes with the old verbiage that, the hat symbolizes hate and intolerance. The MAGA hat, he is quoted as saying, the MAGA hat has come to symbolize racism, bigotry, Islamophobia, misogyny, white supremacy, homophobia.
It's not really his place to judge somebody's clothing choices, though, I guess.
I understand that. I totally understand that. Hey, if you don't like Donald Trump, that's really on you. Okay, it's on all of us. But making these childish assumptions of people just because they support a typical, a certain political person or party, okay? I mean, I rip into Prime Minister Trudeau all the time. I do. And I'm not unrepentant about that. But you know what? If I owned a restaurant and somebody says I voted for Trudeau, came into my restaurant, I wouldn't harass them. Where is the harassment on the other side? And I support the owners for firing this guy.
Well, because he's an employee, he has to represent the beliefs and standards of his employer. But how far removed from the people who say they don't want to bake cakes or provide services to gay wedding couples because it is against their beliefs? How far removed from that is this if he's claiming that the hat represents, in his view, particular subjects or topics?
Well, you pretty much might as well get rid of a lot of people then, right? because there are millions of people who go to the Tea House restaurant every year just to have it's like a landmark in Vancouver. But at what point, okay, and I see your point on that, okay, with the people with the cakes and they didn't want to make a wedding cake. Now let's get it, the story there is he had no problem making them a cake, but due to his religious beliefs, he apologized and said he couldn't do it. And that's what set off the fire. Right?
Okay.
But with this, okay, it's just like Sarah Huckabee Sanders not getting served and politely leaving that what is it, the Red Hen restaurant? Was that what it is? The Red Hen?
Yes. I
Right.
believe so.
She's trying to have dinner with her family, man. Her kids are there. Bite your tongue. How about let them eat dinner and say, Sarah, due to my political beliefs, and I really would appreciate if you didn't come back. By the way, I'll even cover your meal this time.
But
Why
what
not?
have we come to, though, when we're so divided that people are asked to leave because they don't fit in with the establishment or the owner's views? I mean, there's a bigger comment there. There's a bigger sociological statement underlying all of that.
And Tripp brings up a good point in the Spreaker chat room where he says, whatever happened to the right to refuse service to anyone? Because, and I'm going to answer that, and Everett, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm playing the bad guy here. All right? Because personal beliefs are getting in the way. All right? So let's say, for instance, and I'm not, okay, I'm going to get real touchy here, but let's just say I don't want women working out at my gym. I get everything thrown at me, from the media to women's rights to everything. And all I'm saying is, I love women. You can come dine here with your husbands, but this is a golf club, or this is a men's only club. You get raked over the coals, protested.
There are some fine lines here, though, because how many men do you know that have belonged to or tried to join the Curves fitness centers, essentially designed for women or geared towards women? I don't even know if they explicitly don't allow men, but I've never seen a man go into one.
No, because we're refused. We, as men, we respect the fact that it's a women's only club, but maybe we should protest it. Maybe we should protest it.
The idea of that right to refuse service, the idea of just blindly refusing it sort of violates the spirit of what was intended. I mean, you can't deny somebody service just blanketly because of their race or anything like that. That was designed to protect the establishment. If somebody comes in, belligerent, or, maybe they're a little disheveled and it's a more upscale kind of place and they have a dress code kind of thing, that was never intended to just allow people to blanketly deny service. So to use an argument like that kind of violates the spirit of the intent of it.
Well, either way, the gentleman got fired. He says he has no regrets for making the statement that he did, saying, as a person with a strong moral background or backbone, I had to take a stand against the guest's choice of headwear while in my former place of work. Absolutely no regrets. So by what he's saying is, let's say he had a beef with the Sikh community. Would he ban people wearing turbans? Would he ban Jews for wearing their headdress?
He may. He may refuse them service, and what would be the backlash to that?
Worse than what he's getting now. Look, discrimination. Go ahead.
The business owner isn't really getting any because he took the steps to fire his employee. the employee, had he owned the business or owned a business and was doing this, he may have gotten much more serious backlash.
For sure. For sure. I mean, any kind of discrimination is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. Okay? I don't care what sex you are. Okay? I don't care what color you are, what your religious beliefs are. Just treat me well. If I'm out in public and I say hello back. How about being human? All right?
Exactly.
You know, I like my 19-year-old daughter she's what you call pansexual. I don't know what that means. I'm learning about it. But if that's who she is, that's who she is. It's not going to make me change loving her any differently. I have a transsexual person on my team for Spaced Out Radio. Love her to death. She works her butt off. I have a black aunt. My investor is of East Indian descent. Right? I don't care. How about just treating people properly? And when you take a stand like this guy because of a bloody hat that has a saying that you may not agree with it, you know what? I don't agree with, people flaunting all, I'll tell you what I don't agree with. I don't agree with a bunch of Canadians out there who have changed our flag, and instead of a maple leaf, they've put a pot leaf in there. That offends me. Because they're making a mockery out of the country and the flag that a lot of people have died for in that freedom. But you don't see me causing a ruckus because somebody wears a Canadian, even maybe on their jean jacket or their jacket, a stitched-in patch that has a Canadian flag but a pot leaf instead of a maple leaf.
I have to confess that I wasn't even aware that had happened or was going on.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the outrage in the U.S. if people changed the stars, little pot leaves?
Exactly, man. Exactly. And this is much different than somebody rolling into your restaurant who's, 3/4 cut or can barely talk, or they're having a freak out after shooting heroin, or they have no shoes on or no shirt. I mean, remember the old saying, no shoes, no shirt, no service. This is different than that, man. This is different than that. Okay? You're taking a stand because you feel the need to take a stand. What did that person do to you besides wearing a hat that offended you? What did that person do to you? Did you try talking to them? Did you find out what they're really like? That maybe they were in Vancouver at maybe their child's funeral or just on a holiday, whatever it may be. Did you take the time? No, you judged them, and you're just as guilty as everybody else, man. You're just as guilty. So this dude losing his job, I'm very, very much okay with that. Very much okay with that.
One thing I think people need to be a bit aware of is that not everybody agrees blanketly with a particular ideal system. I mean, just because he was wearing the Make America Great Again hat, I mean, there are parts of those concepts that I agree with and parts that I disagree with. I think a vast majority of the voters and people in the U.S. don't fall completely on one side or the other. So in a way, to even judge him by that hat, you kind of have to know him a little bit, know whether or not you agree or disagree with where he stands on all of the positions. I just don't think that this is somebody who completely and blindly agreed with the Trump policies. I'm sure he had some that he may have disagreed with.
This guy has all the markings of one of those people who's going to become a hero. They want to be a hero in the media. Look what I stood up for. Look what I did. I'm a hero. I have no regrets. I got fired from my job. And now people, when they go on my resume and say, why did you leave your last job? Well, I wouldn't serve a Trump supporter. Get your head out of your butt. Live life. Treat people for people, man. Treat people for people. All right, we don't all have to agree on everything. I mean, Everett, you're one of my good friends. You and I don't agree with everything.
No, not at all.
All right? But I still treat you with respect.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Okay.
And I try and treat you with respect when we disagree.
Exactly. Well, Mr. Skeptic puts a good question up here on Twitter. He says, what if he had swastikas and a shirt that said, kill all the politically incorrect, let's say, black people on it? Do you still serve them? I think that's a little bit different than a MAGA hat. Maybe that's just the Canadian in me seeing that. I really don't know how to answer that, to be blunt.
That's a tough one because, I mean, everybody has their right to their ideals, but gosh, if I was in that position, I would probably serve the person and just let them go on about their day. I mean, you have to pick your battles, and arguing with one person over their clothing choices or the statements they want to make on their T-shirts, to me, that's not a battle worth fighting.
Yeah. And like he says it is different. Just want to establish that there are different standards. And he's right. He is absolutely right. Everybody's going to have their different standards. But, I mean, the way everybody seems to want to be the social justice warrior hero, I think that's where everybody is getting fed up.
If everybody wants to be the social justice warrior hero, why is there such a problem with cyberbullying and things like that then?
No idea. I have no idea. Let's move on to the topic. How about you throw one out there?
We'll stick on Donald Trump this time.
Oh, okay.
Just for a quick one.
Yeah.
The comedian John Melendez placed a call to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump returned it from Air Force One. Donald Trump thought this John Melendez was a senator and basically talked to him for about 5-10 minutes, just talking about a bunch of different things, saying things like he had a big list of people and would announce in the next 12 to 14 days who his Supreme Court nominee was going to be. Just randomly talking to this gentleman, believing that he was a senator. And this guy was actually rather shocked because he's not unknown. He has a podcast. It's been on Leno and different shows. So he has a public profile, but even using a fake name, his voice is somewhat recognizable. Apparently, Donald Trump just thought that this name was one of the senators because he had said, left a message as a senator, and Donald Trump called him back and started discussing things with him.
Wow. How did he get that number?
Nobody's saying. And actually, he did not call Air Force One. He called a White House line to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump returned the call from Air Force One.
And Donald Trump did it. I'm of two minds here on this one, man. Like, good for the dude for getting through. Honestly, good for the dude for getting through. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Good for him. I have no problem with that whatsoever. He did his homework. He got through. He got with the, something that's going to, put his name on the map a little bit. I have no problem with that.
But it's. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but security-wise, you think that the people on the other end of the phones on the White House would be doing a little bit more background checking rather than your local 403 or 604 or 902 area code.
That's the thing. There were things in place. In fact, when he called, first he had to leave a message with the switchboard operator at the White House, who did question him for his Senate phone number. But he explained that away as he was on holiday, so he left his cell phone number. And then Jared Kushner called him to confirm, And he called the cell phone number and apparently never suspected that this gentleman wasn't a senator. And then Donald Trump called, believing he was a senator. To me, the scary part is none of these people bothered to check to see if he was a senator or not. There's only 100 of them.
Do they not have a list of those phone numbers that would maybe show who's, a senator's cell phone number? That's ridiculous.
You would think. And in fact, all of them are in basically typically two or three different office buildings, and I'm sure that they have listings of every senator across the country. You would think that it would be just a matter of typing in the name and pulling it up and seeing that it wasn't on file.
There is some fake IRS agent in Pakistan who is listening or reading up on this story, trying to figure out how they can try and get Donald Trump to pay up in Walmart gift cards.
How do you know they're fake? I mean, I just had to send a bunch of money to the IRS in Pakistan.
Oh, those scams. Those are funny, man. Those are funny. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I really do.
Do you have several good friends that are princes in various African countries that you've never heard of?
No, but I can tell you this. First time ever I got hit with one of those phone calls. I have never heard such a strong accent on a gentleman named Peter Spencer before. I was going to jail, and believe it or not, it was actually the day I was dropping off Amy on the radio to head home.
Wow.
No, it was our investor. When I dropped him off to head home, I got the phone call. And this was back in March. Pardon me, it wasn't with Amy, it was with our investor. And Peter Spencer called me up. And I'm like, buddy, I'm on a mount, Ted. Really, you're at the type. And so I had to do the fake, my phone's cutting out.
Smart.
But I'll tell you, those guys are intimidating. That's the first time I ever got one. I was always thinking, I would love to have one of those calls. I would absolutely love to have one of those calls. I know what I would do. It's kind of, I hate to say this, but it's kind of the same thing, Everett, as when we ask people, how would you react? How would you react about, having an experience with UFOs or aliens or being face to face with Bigfoot or something like that? And everybody's like, I'll take my picture. I had it all planned out how I would scam the scammer, waste a bunch of time. And I panicked. Man.
It never goes the way you plan it. You can have it all figured out in your head. And I've had things like that happen too. It just doesn't go the way you expect it to.
I know. I was so disappointed in myself. So disappointed. So we only got a couple minutes here before we got to go to break, about 2.5 minutes. And this past weekend, Jordan Peace from Architects of the New Paradigm invited me to Vancouver to watch his conference on the disclosure agenda. And in the, speaking were some familiar voices around here. We had Richard Dolan, Grant Cameron, Steve Bassett, Daniel Sheehan, Johnny Enoch, who helped me start this show. And I got to tell you, what a great conference that was. I went down there on Friday. Even though the event wasn't until Saturday, I went and hung out with everybody. And I got a picture with George Norrie. I'd never met George Norrie before. And I know there's not a lot of fans of him, okay, but it was pretty cool, guys, when he actually called me over to talk to me by name. He wasn't like, who are you? He's like, hey, Dave, how you doing, man? And we talked. That was a big moment. And his mustache is fantastic. I think he gets the power from the mustache. I really do.
Is there going to be a Dave Scott mustache in the near future?
Well, I've got the beard going. That's kind of my trend right now, is I got the full beard going. That's, I try to keep that Don Johnson Miami Vice look going, or, never seems to work too well, but I got the beard thing. That's just the way it is, man. It's just the way it is. But, I got to meet a lot of really cool people. And to sit down with Richard Dolan, whom I had met face-to-face back in May of 2015, when, a few months after we got this show going, and to sit back and talk with him and just, enjoy each other's, chat about UFOs and everything. It was wonderful. It was almost like a gala type setup where it was very professional. It was very cordial. The audience was very respectful. And I'll get into this a little bit more after the break, but I got to tell you, Johnny Enoch, who helped me set up this conference, he stole the show. Of all those big names that were there, Johnny got a standing ovation. And everybody just went crazy about his speech, the energy and everything. And we'll get into that and so much more from Architects of the New Paradigm right after the break. You are listening to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, we have strange news, weird news. We're opening up the phone lines to you as well in hour number 2. So make sure you call in at 1-702-302-4556. Everett Themer from the Encounter Online is my guest. We're talking strange, weird news coming up in number 2 as well. Take care.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
There's news, and there's The Encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Themer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me Chris Zuger and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's The Spiritual You with Geraldine Orozco. We do this the first Tuesday of every month, so we try to find everything from your personal Zen to your ET contact, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network, including Deep Talk Radio. And don't forget, you can check us out on our archives, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Autothaumaturgist. Autothaumaturgist is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, We're all over the place. You know where you can find us. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We're going to be doing some upgrading on that, so please bear with us. But you can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read on the Encounter online, and so much more. Yes, we got a plethora of features for you there. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Everett Themer is our guest tonight. We're talking weird, strange, and topics of the day here on Spaced Out Radio. Everett is the news director of the Encounter Online, the SOR News section, and we're glad to have him back. Our original guest, well, we just couldn't get a hold of him. Aaron Elliott, if you're listening, where are you? Where are you? Hope something bad didn't happen to him. That'd be terrible if it did, but we got a show to do. We got to fill in. We got Everett. We're talking a bunch of news and items of the day. Everett, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you for stepping in on short notice to quickly jam your news section more than you normally would, but nonetheless, right before the break, we were talking about Architects of the New Paradigm, which was held in Vancouver. This is a series of lectures that are given across the United States. It's been going on for about 4 years. This year, they tried Canada. Now, they did make some mistakes that they admitted to. The biggest mistake that they made was they held it on June 30th. And they even said the problem that they had with that is they didn't look at the Canadian calendar. Of course, Sunday was July 1st, Canada Day, and a lot of people go away for the long weekend. They go traveling, and they missed out on probably a couple hundred more people that they would have got to take in the event, but also, you know, there's a lot of people who are busy traveling, visiting relatives, you know, because Canada Day, although it doesn't get the hype that, you know, the 4th of July does, it's a big day nonetheless up here. Canada turned 151 years old. She's still beautiful. And that was their major mistake that they will make sure is check the Canadian calendar next year. But they do plan on coming back to Vancouver. I'm very excited about that. The other thing, too, was that I said to them, because they asked my opinion on that, which I was actually quite grateful for. I said it would have been nice to have another 1 or 2 Canadian speakers. Their lineup was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Grant Cameron, Daniel Sheehan, Johnny Enoch. I think I'm missing one. Victor Vigiani was there, but he was at MC. And a couple of times during the show, you know, they mentioned Canada's president. Canadian people don't take too well to things like that. You know, I realize it was just a minor slip-up, but, you know, you have to know your audience. And I said, you know, if you added one more Canadian lecturer, that would have been great, because the one thing they didn't have, and the speakers were phenomenal. They always are. But the one thing they didn't have was, how does this affect Canadian people? And if you're hosting something in Canada, you have to be able, you know, like if I'm in the United States giving, you know, like I will be attending Eric Cooper's Forest Moon Paracon, I'm not focusing on Canadian people. I'm focusing on the American people, because there's going to be very few Canadian people there. You have to focus on your audience. And that was the 2 minor things that I thought were needing to be changed for next year. Whether they take my advice or not, I know they will on the date, because they brought that up. They kind of went, oh, crap, when they found out that it was a long weekend in Canada Day. But on the other side, who knows? Who knows if they will or not?
Well, for Canadians, they had you and Grant.
Well, they had Johnny and Grant, and Victor Vigiani was emceeing, but he wasn't there as a speaker.
And soon, Richard Dolan will be sort of an honorary Canadian, won't he?
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. I mean, he married a beautiful lady named Tracy, who is from Vancouver. They actually met at Contact in the Desert a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I was bugging him. I was bugging him and Tracy. I said, you know, we got to get Richard his Canadian citizenship now. And she goes, I'm working on it. She goes, don't push too hard. I just got him to learn the national anthem, which is fine.
Which version does he know?
Who knows? I refused to sing the new version on Canada Day. I really did. I refused to sing the new version. Don't like it. I'm sticking with the old one.
That's rather impolite of you, isn't it?
Well, I don't think I'd be fired for it. I went there. Ad Gnome is asking, Dave, did you run with the gnomes on Canada Day? No, I did not. No, I did not. But nonetheless, the conference, it was very good. Stephen Bassett opened things up with, talking about how we're inching towards disclosure, how we could be within 2 years of full-on disclosure with everything that is going on, especially with Donald Trump announcing the Space Force, that more information is going to come through. He was hoorah for, the Stars Academy and the context of what they have brought out. He was also, very, very, Steve Bassett. If you haven't seen Steve Bassett speak, he's hilarious. He's hilarious. He's so self-deprecating yet self-grandizing at the same time. You really got to watch him speak. And then it was followed up by Grant Cameron, who came in and talked about the, almost like a timeline of the entire disclosure movement and what has happened over the years. Really went into history, who are the players involved. And it's amazing, Everett, it's amazing how many times the name... oh, God, of course, I can't even think of his name now. He was a former guest here. John was part of the aviary. Now I got to look it up. Oh, goodness. I feel a little bit embarrassed here.
I have John Podesta stuck on my mind, so...
Why do I want to say Anderson? It's not Anderson. I'll get it here for a second here. I'm just pulling it up. Where are you? You're here. John Alexander. His name was all over the place there. All over the place.
Huh.
And it kind of makes you wonder who is playing the game there. Who's playing the game there?
He was a colonel in the Air Force, wasn't he?
In the United States Army. He was also Special Forces. Now, a lot of people believe that he is some of the brains behind the operation when it comes to UFOs and extraterrestrials. Work closely with Robert Bigelow at the Skinwalker Ranch. Very much involved. And on the weird woo-woo side of things, because I know Mr. Skeptic on Twitter loves the woo. All right. Is, according to some people who have attended Lorian Fenton's UFO conferences in the past, they say when they've been abducted while on ship, they have seen John Podesta standing behind the aliens when the aliens are doing their surgeries, and he is watching. How weird is that?
The skeptic in me has a hard time buying that.
Yeah.
Dude, I put that up there.
The tinfoil wearing guy in me has a hard time believing that.
I put that up there with these people. There have been several of them who claimed that they were on a spacecraft with a young Barack Obama. And, when you start going down those roads, it's just tough to swallow sometimes.
I totally agree with you. On that. But, his name just kept popping up. Then Johnny Enoch, who helped me start this show in 2014, the guy who convinced me to do it, he jumps on there. And, it's funny because everybody's there to see the big names. And Johnny was, one of the names that, not a lot of people know about. And he starts talking about the esoteric side of ETs and the history going back to the Sumerians and ancient Egypt. And then he kind of brought it forward with a lot of the experiences that he has covered over the years in his research. And be damned if he was the only one who got a standing ovation.
He deserves that. He does a lot of hard work.
He does. And I was very, very, you know, it was emotional for me because, you know, Johnny means a lot to me. He really, his friendship, his coercion of getting me to start Spaced Out Radio, his attitude, he's one of the most positive people I have met in my life. And to watch him get a standing ovation in front of these people who probably 99% of the audience, there was probably 250, 300 people there, didn't know who he was. To watch him get that ovation, man, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, Johnny was so nervous up there, he didn't even see it. I talked to him yesterday about it, and he did not even see the audience when he was done. Oh, pardon me, it was today. I talked to him earlier today about that. And he said, you know, when he was done, he was so out of gas and so nerved up, and the lights were kind of shining in his eyes that he didn't see the people give him an ovation. But it was
that's too bad.
Yeah, you know, but like he just couldn't believe it. He was so happy to be in with that crowd. After Johnny spoke, Richard Dolan took to the stage and absolutely nailed it. He went through a timeline of, you know, what's happening with disclosure, why we haven't had it yet, you know, how the To the Stars Academy is affecting things, and he nailed that one, you know, in typical Dolan fashion. And, you know, we're going to be getting him on the show probably in the next couple months again. He absolutely loved what we did here. And then Daniel Sheehan, the lawyer, finished it up. And, you know, if you've never seen Daniel Sheehan speak, the guy is so smooth. He's like, screw all this PowerPoint stuff. Just put his hand in his pocket, use his other to detail, and, you know, just spoke. It was pretty phenomenal. And then, you know, George Norrie ran the round table. And afterwards, they had all these tables set up where people could go up and speak to each individual speaker. So I kind of did the rounds there and shook some hands. And, you know, it was impressive. It was just an impressive event. I hope they come back next year. You know, we're going to make sure that the Spaced Out Radio name is spread all around there. So it'll be a lot of fun. But if you ever get a chance to see an Architects of the New Paradigm event, I highly suggest you do. It's very well run, very professional, very tightly organized. The down part about it is your favorite speakers only get 45 minutes. I mean, you had guys who could go for 2-3 hours on their own, and they were given 45 minutes. So you saw a lot of the guys trying to jam things in there to 45 minutes, but they did a great job. They did their best, and they did a great job.
It sounds like it was a lot of fun. Now, how many of these do they run a year?
I believe 4 or 5 a year. I think this one was number 4, but this was their first time coming into Canada.
I'm going to have to look and see if they have any here in the Midwest, and go check one of these out.
You should. You totally should. Let's get to some news here, my friend. You're up.
You know, kind of talking about that and Norrie running the round table, the Tic-Tac video came back around and out today. KLAS out of Las Vegas, basically they're running a thing now that they're saying the UFOs may have been trying to rendezvous with a giant undersea object. I don't know why this report is coming out again today, or, you know, this is coming out today. If it has something to do with To the Stars and the conference that you were at, you know, there's a little bit of a KLAS connection through all of this, but basically they're saying that that object was trying to rendezvous with some massive craft or another object underwater, which, you know, I've written off the Tic-Tac video, but I just found it curious that this comes out today after George Norrie is at a conference that, you know, is talking about the things that, you know, everybody is kind of talking about with the To the Stars and things like that.
I'm still a little bit up in the air with that original Tic-Tac video. I really am. You know, I mean, here's the thing. George Knapp is a fantastic reporter. I think we can agree on that. He's been he's been the face of this for a long, long time. Are there things that he has done that I have questioned? Yes. But his insider information on that is so deep that you have to wonder if there's some truth to that. But the thing that I don't like is it seems like every few weeks there's a new story developed around that one video.
And in this case, I question whether or not it's Knapp's attempt to capitalize a little bit or get some press off of Nori speaking at that conference.
I would doubt that. I doubt there is any tie between the two. But maybe it's just to me, it sounds more of a ploy to keep the Stars Academy, Luis Elizondo and many others, in the news, keep them in the forefront. Because right now, the entire world is learning this through KLAS. And KLAS knows this. So why wouldn't they, keep trying to update things? They know they have the man who's releasing all the information first. They know they have the prime source. Whether it's Bigelow, whether it's DeLong, whether it's Putoff, whether it's Semivan. They have it all. And the entire UFO world, and there are millions of people who are watching this, are watching KLAS to see what they bring out. So why wouldn't they?
I'll give you that. I just think it's time for the Tic-Tac video to be laid to rest.
We need something more.
I'd like to see something that fits all the hype that they keep generating.
They played a video. I believe it was Richard Dolan played 8 seconds of a video of a UFO coming down to land at an Air Force base. Now, apparently most of this video is highly classified. They literally showed this orb of white light coming down towards the runway. That's all they showed. But the extent of the story, according to Dolan, is, I believe it was at Holloman Air Force Base. And according to Dolan, this video sees that UFO land and sees beings get out. Not a being, but beings get out of it. And this is one of the most highly classified videos out there.
Okay, if that video is classified, why release or declassify 8 seconds of it unless you were trying to create the question in people's minds to begin with?
Well, apparently the original owner of it still had part of the video.
Okay.
Right.
So was it confiscated from him then? Or?
Pretty much.
Because it just seems weird to release kind of like a little nugget of 8 seconds, but then can't release the rest of it because it's classified. If it's a light that is a questionable light, whether it be a UFO or some form of aircraft, if you're trying to hide it, why even release or declassify any amount of video?
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? That's the interesting thing. I mean, is the video real? Who knows? Dolan seems to think that it is. Other people in the know seem to think that it is. But they were able to get 8 seconds out. The first 8 seconds of this orb coming down. All you see is a mountainside in the background. Runway, it's in color. And the orb coming on down.
Cool.
Yeah, you don't see a touchdown on the runway. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you look at the video, you think, okay, maybe it's an F-16 or something with it, or an F-15 with its lights on. You know, its front landing lights on, because it's just one bright white orb. For all intents and purposes, that's what it could have been. I don't know. They're saying that this was an orb and it landed, and the rest of the video that we don't get to see, you actually see beings get out of the craft. 2 beings, I believe, maybe 3.
Huh. It would be interesting to see that whole video.
It totally would.
But how do you trust it, though?
Yeah, but how do you trust anything in this field anymore? How do you trust anything? We've become so cynical with absolutely everything because of CGI, because of government lies, because people's tall tales. How do we trust anything today in it? It's a very, very universal question.
Maybe at times we've just shot ourselves in the foot so much that now all of us are a bit cynical.
I think so. I totally think so.
And that means we'll probably miss something important at some point in time.
Sure. Like Jim Baker's End of the World prophecy.
I think there's like 6 or 8 of those upcoming, aren't there?
They are coming up, man. They are coming up. Here's a funny question for you. Funny story for you. This one comes out of, I believe, Rhode Island. Father and son, who have big-time disagreements about President Donald Trump, are running for the same office spot. One is a Republican, one as an independent. David Caroa Sr. and David Caroa Jr. both filed to run for a state House seat currently held by a Democrat. Both live at the same address in Newport. What do you think about that? Father and son, imagine the dinner talks around there. The son is 22, the father is 47. I think this is awesome. There has to be more than just a pillow fight. Son, go to your room. You're wrong. There has to be more than just that.
It would be interesting to sit down at one of those dinners, but it could potentially, whoever wins, they have the potential to have been exposed to the other viewpoints in a very first-hand way, and maybe it affects each of them for the better. I mean, if they can sit down as a father and son and have discussions, then, certainly it can hopefully enlighten each one. Now, if it's literally yelling across the kitchen table, then maybe not so much. But I'd like to think that it's a good way to enlighten both on the other points of view.
Yeah, I totally see that point, but I mean, it would be very uncomfortable. Let's say if the father won on the Republican ticket and the son doesn't even show up for the party because he ran as an independent and lost. Because if that old man is anything like me or my father, the way we are competitive, my father, if he beat me at something, would do nothing but rub it in.
Nice.
He would do nothing but rub it in.
Maybe this is just the son's way of getting out of family functions.
Could be. Could be. But when your own son, I mean, this is where what do you say? What did they say you never talk about at the family dinner table? Politics, religion, and there's a third one. But we'll leave it at the 2 for right now.
I've always heard it as the 2.
Okay. But I mean, this makes for very, very interesting dinner topics, man. Very interesting dinner topics. Because let's face it, it's hard with family members not to allow emotion to get the better of you. How do you stay calm on this one? How do you draw the line and say, well, this is business and not family?
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, some of my family functions have been guilty of getting rather heated, but I would think that hopefully they could keep it under control. I mean, it has the potential to just be kind of like a sitcom scene of fighting at a holiday gathering. But yeah, it's politics. They should both be at least decent at saying something without saying anything and not agitate or irritate the other. You would hope they do that, at least through the holiday gathering or through the family dinner or whatever it may be.
For sure. I never know.
Yeah. However, if it were me and my son, I'd point out that he's wrong constantly, whether he won or lost. It'd just be fun.
Oh, you'd have to rub it in. You would totally have to rub it in. There is no choice. There is no absolute choice. You have to go at it. You have to.
Hey, I'm going to take your Rhode Island story and I'm going to top it.
All right, I'm ready.
With a topless woman who has been arrested for stealing a bulldozer and crashing it into an apartment complex.
And why did she do that?
This Heather Houston allegedly stole the front end loader from a construction site and drove it 5 miles across town in Great Falls, Montana. She ran over a fence, cars, and just ran into this apartment building. Apparently, she was on drugs.
You would think.
Yeah, she's been charged. She's been charged with a few different felony crimes and some drug crimes, but right now she's in jail. She just really, that's it. It's the headline. She's a half-naked woman, stole the bulldozer, drove it across town, and ran into an apartment complex intentionally.
What kind of drugs do you have to be on to do that? And why is it always the drunk people? I mean, sober people can't barely figure out how to drive a tractor, let alone a bulldozer or a backhoe or a tank or anything like this.
And she drove this about 5 miles.
How is that even possible? And how is the police? Don't you take the law of the land and shoot first and ask questions later before the damage starts?
Well, if she was able to keep it on the road, I guess, or however she got there. Like around here at this time of the year, if you see a bulldozer going somewhere, you don't question it because we have so much construction going on that it's not all that unusual. So I could see somebody not giving it much attention if she was in the right places or going down a path that looked like she belonged there. But you got to give her credit if she can be under the influence and drive 5 miles on a giant bulldozer and aim for an apartment complex and hit it.
But if she's half naked, how can somebody not notice? There's windows all over the place in those cabs, whether it's a backhoe, whether it's a hi-ho, whether it's a bobcat. There's lots of, window view. How do you not tell that there's something wrong with this situation?
Maybe people just were busy looking.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's not like she, put a bunch of, steel on it like that dude did a few years ago when he was running into buildings after he lost his job. And I believe he committed suicide in it.
Oh, I kind of remember that.
Where he put like steel barriers on everything to make it bulletproof so the police couldn't shoot in. The thing was almost explosive proof. Like he had spent months planning this out.
Yeah, I don't think she spent any time planning this out.
What kind of drugs lead to that? I mean, that's more than just heroin. Is that meth? Is that the reaction from meth? I don't know. I don't know any meth users.
Maybe ecstasy. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, it could be a combination of alcohol and drugs. It could be, a variety of different things.
Terrible. I got a question for you. I met a guy at the Architects of the New Paradigm. His name is Joel Garbin. Okay, he's a chemical engineer, brilliant scientist. All right. Has been working on a patent and knows many people who have been working on patents for 0-point energy. You know, to try and create faster times on everything. And, you know, I got to admit, I'm not fully up to date on 0-point energy. So I'm going to preface that right off the bat. I know the context. I'm just, you know, I'll admit I'm not smart enough right now to break it down to every bit of detail that Joel was telling me. And I'm going to bring him on as a guest in August on this show to talk about it. But
now, 0-point energy, is that essentially free energy?
Free energy, yeah. And he was talking about how the oil companies have really kind of, you know, their fingers, you know, have long nails that are intertwined with absolutely everything. So we started talking about it. And he started talking about all of these patents out there that all of these engineers and scientists say they've got the answer to 0-point energy and to free energy and how it's going to work and how they need to do it and how they need the money to make it happen and so on and so forth. But here's the interesting part. Joel is also a believer in the secret space program. So I asked him point blank, if you believe in the secret space program, that we have things and we've been able to travel places, Joel, wouldn't that mean we already have 0-point energy and beyond? So why are we wasting our time trying to invent it?
Good question.
And, you know, and that's exactly what he said. He said, that's a good question. He goes, the problem is we don't know what that technology is because nobody is letting it out. And the majority of people in the scientific community, because it hasn't come out in the public eye, because it's above top secret, they don't know that it truly exists. So people are trying their best to bring this 0-point energy forward. So what do you think, Ev? Do you think it's already here, that 0-point energy, and which just hasn't been introduced to mankind because of the oil and gas industries?
You know, I don't know if I accept the concept of 0-point energy or free energy. We can argue that in some ways we have it already in terms of solar and even wind to an extent, where we're creating electricity virtually out of some people would say nothing, but I mean, there are processes where, you know, photons are converted into electrons. But the thing is, it's not exactly free energy. There's always a waste or a loss through transference and friction, that kind of thing. I just don't know if I'm not up and up on my laws of physics and really deep physics to say that I even accept the concept. I mean, what happened to the cars that run on water from, I believe it was the mid-70s, early 70s? You know, there was a whole conspiracy about that one gentleman who had the car complete, had the plans, everything was there, and then he gets murdered. But when you really look at it, the car didn't run on water. So every time people start to talk about these free energy, 0-point energy things, I kind of have a hard time accepting what they're saying. I don't think it's possible.
If it is possible, though, it could be one of mankind's biggest secrets that is being held back. And if you believe, like somebody like Joel, who's very connected, you know, if you believe that he, you know, what he is saying verbatim, that he does believe there is a secret space program. Now you got to break down the secret space program and what's out there, because there are so many avenues to that as well. You know, I mean, there's the woo-woo factor. God, that's twice I've used that now. Skeptic's going to be so happy on Twitter about this. There's the woo-woo factor of, okay, we have bases on Mars, we have bases on the moon, we run the TR-3Bs all over our solar system and our universe. You know, Valiant Thor was real, we're on Saturn and Saturn's moons, and there hasn't been a place that we haven't gone. That's the woo-woo factor, right? But if it's that, you know, we maybe have more international space station type scenarios up there with people pointing missiles down, for instance, you know, at North Korea when the president and Rocket Man are hanging out, and maybe the president says, see that little laser beam on the ground? That could hit you. That's a different thing. Totally different story.
I just don't think that the existence of a secret space program confirms free or 0 point energy. We have a variety of different energy models or types of energy generation systems that to the general public look like they're in developmental stages. What if those are more advanced than we think they are? And none of them are free energy or 0 point energy. What if those are more advanced than we believe they are? Why couldn't we be using those on any potential secret space program?
Maybe we already are, but that's the question, Everett. Is what is happening at some of these underground bases or secret bases? You know, never mind. I mean, everybody looks at Area 51, but I mean, there's a lot of places to hide things in Alaska. There's a lot of little islands where there's military bases like Diego Garcia, where you can hide things.
Whatever happened to Wright-Patterson being the next Area 51? That kind of came and went.
Oh, there's still some weird stuff happening there. Still some totally weird stuff happening there. But that's the reality of it all, is that there is certain things happening that we don't know about. And if there is a possibility that, you know, I mean, now you hear scientists talking about the new phase of aircraft that are going to be coming in are all hypersonic, you know, traveling up to 4,000 or 5,000 miles an hour. So you can get to, you know, LA to England in like 2.5 hours.
What's that going to cost?
Who knows? Who knows? Probably an arm and a leg. It's going to take flight out. I mean, the rest of us are all going to still have to fly in the cargo bay of the 737s and 747s. But I mean, if that's the way it's going, it's going to save people a lot of time. And you know, eventually they have no choice. They need to switch it over. They need to switch it over. And maybe this is all, and I hate to, you know, try and tie the two together, but maybe this all ties to disclosure, right? Because once you start disclosing things, you can say, this is where we got the technology from.
When you start talking hypersonic planes and flying from Los Angeles to London or Europe, that kind of thing, immediately my mind goes right back to the Concorde, and that was, you know, a commercial plane, commercial technology, and even though it didn't fly hypersonically, it was so expensive that essentially it was a failure.
And then they had the crash, which pretty much killed the program.
Yeah, that pretty much shut it down. But would this hypersonic technology be viable or affordable on a publicly commercial product?
Well, I'm pretty sure that they're going to have to figure that out. I mean, flat screen TVs, the original ones were selling at like $10,000 a pop, man, for like a 40-inch flat screen TV. And now you can pick up an 80-inch for like $3,000, if that.
Remember when a 25-inch TV had to be like delivered to your house because it was in the big console?
Yeah.
And, you know, now you buy a 40, 45, 50-inch TV, put it in the back of your SUV and lift it with two hands.
I don't know what the price down there was for those big brick cell phones when they first came out, but up here they were selling anywhere between $800 and $1,500 a piece, and then it was something ridiculous like $1 a minute or 55 cents a minute. And
I had one of those bag phones,
and it didn't matter. It didn't matter if the call was incoming or outgoing; you were charged.
I had one of those bag phones, and I think I paid like $700 for it, $700 or $800, and there was a ridiculous monthly plan that you had to pay, and you had to, like you said, you had to pay for every minute, whether it was incoming, outgoing, and you didn't even have the caller ID, call waiting, all the features that you have today. It was just a basic phone.
So, my dad's brother he's a great guy, but he's never really been up to date on technology. So let's go back to the brick phones for a second, and let's go back to about 1988, 1999, or 1989. All right. So my uncle used to be a trucker, and one day my dad decides to go on the road with him, and my dad brings his cell phone with him, the big brick, right? And he's like, hey, what is that? Well, it's a cell phone. You can make calls to anybody. So he goes, well, can I try that out? I've never used it. So my dad obviously says, sure, go right ahead. Try out the cell phone. So about 10 minutes after talking on this, while he's driving his big rig down the highway, he hangs up. Oh, I just got to call so-and-so. And then he made like 35 phone calls. My dad ended up with a $500 cell phone bill from my uncle racking it up.
And that was back when they had roaming charges too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was terrible.
Yeah, I got knocked with some of those roaming charges a few times. That was a pretty good racket they had there with those.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That just ended cross-border a few years ago here, you know.
Really?
Like in 2010 when I went to Vegas with my buddies on my pre-divorce party, and I had just met Mrs. SOR. And so I called her up a couple of times while I was there, and we talked for quite a while. I had like a $700 cell phone bill when I got back from international calling, roaming charges, texting fees, and everything. That's why I just pay the $10 now to get international calling. It just works a little bit cheaper for me.
When we used to have a landline, we've cut the cord, but a long time ago we had a landline. And my son met a girl, and she went away for the summer. And she went to somewhere up by Montreal. And he had her number there. We did not know he was calling Canada, and we didn't have international calling on the landline. And he was calling her almost every night. And honestly, I didn't think anything of it because he didn't have to dial a country code or anything. I saw the number. It was a typical area code. I wasn't familiar with it, but that didn't mean anything. And then the bill came. And it was about $1,800 in phone calls to somewhere outside of Montreal.
$1,800.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So for the rest of the time that we had a landline, we had the $10 a month plan for calling Canada.
It's $10.
I think it was like, yeah, I think it was like $8, $10, $12. It was something ridiculously cheap, but they knocked a little bit off that bill, but we had to pay a big chunk of it.
That's terrible. Terrible.
Well, you know, if it's going to be an international call, really, you should have to dial the country code, or there should be something to tip you off that it's
Well, learn your area codes, man. It's a 1. We're on the same international as you. Just dial 1 first. It's not like Europe where you got to dial like 76 numbers before you press 3 to get to where you want to call.
Every time I start to figure out the area codes, they add a few more. I mean, here in Chicago, we used to have, in the late 80s, we had 2, sort of 3. Now I think there's 3 that I'm not even familiar with. I think one of them isn't even a technical area code. It's simply a code for cell phones.
Wow. That's interesting. I still remember British Columbia when it had 1 area code. 1. Now it's got
The
like
entire
5 or something.
The entire province?
Entire province had 1 area code. And then when Vancouver hit like the 2 million people mark, they took the Lower Mainland area and made that a 604 area code, made the rest of the province a 250. Then they introduced 778. Now there's like a 287. It's really weird. I think we're at 4. 4 now.
Well, back when we were kids, it was kind of like every household might have 1 phone number, maybe 2 at times attached to it. Now I think at any given time, like in my house, we have probably 6 numbers attached to it between everybody's cell phones and, business phones, that kind of thing. So there's definitely like a 5 or 6 fold increase in the number of phone lines being used.
We got time for one more before we got to go to break here. An Iowa man opened up a Reese's peanut butter cup because he wanted a treat. I mean, who doesn't like Reese peanut butter cups? I had Reese peanut butter cups today. I like them. But he opens it up, and Alex Hentges of Dubuque fired off a letter onto Reddit about his experience. Here's what it says. My Reese's peanut butter cup had no peanut butter. He wrote as a caption to show the photo that it was all chocolate. Somewhere out there, someone is getting all the peanut butter Reese's cups, someone wrote. Now, he's not really griping. He's just kind of making fun of the post. Thought it was an April Fool's joke. But Reese actually did something cool. They took this very, very seriously. And they literally sent him a care package full of Reese peanut butter cups and different Reese products.
So was this just a solid chunk of chocolate then?
Yes, it was a solid chunk of chocolate. The peanut butter never made it inside.
But there wasn't like a hollow cavity in it.
No, nothing. It wasn't hollow. It was all chocolate.
I need to make one. I mean, buy one of these.
Yeah.
If they're sending out care packages, I see a peanut-free Reese's peanut butter cup in my future.
So this was a note from Reese. They said, here's enough chocolate and peanut butter to make everything cool between us.
That's a good response.
Yeah. Reese and Hentges said, Reese's replied to my peanut butter cupless or peanut butterless cup with the care package. And let's see, I'm going to try and extend this so I could read the note. Sometimes we like to remind people that you do need both chocolate and peanut butter together to have the perfect candy. This was one of those times, and you were the unlucky person. Now that we made our point, here's enough chocolate and peanut butter to make everything cool with us, Reese's. They sent him a bunch of chocolate. Like, good for them for doing that. They didn't have to. I mean, that's free advertising for them, which is kind of cool.
Oh, definitely.
You know, it's nice when you see companies like that step up. It really is.
It's good public relations.
And it's not like he was bitching or complaining. You know, he wasn't bitching or complaining. He was just saying, look what I got. This is kind of odd. You know, where's my peanut butter? Just being sarcastic.
So many people would have that all over Facebook, just turning it into a complaint, a complaint fest.
Exactly, and that didn't happen. That totally didn't happen. He just went with it. You know, and this is what he got. Some Reese peanut butter cups.
Nice.
You know, good for him. Good for him. We got about 1 minute here before we got to go to break. Have you ever complained to a company about anything, Everett?
No, not that I can think of offhand. I've complained about people at companies, but never. No, I don't think I have.
I bought a car from a dealership one time. I was like 30 years old. I bought a Saturn SL2. It was used. Great little car. One of the best little cars I ever owned.
I love Saturns.
Long story short, because we are running out of time, up here they had this silly air care thing. And part of the dealership's rule was that every used vehicle had to be air cared before it was sold. So I transferred my insurance over. I go to renew my insurance a few weeks later, and boom, they say, you need an air care ticket. I said, well, I just bought this vehicle. It's supposed to be air cared. Take it back to the dealership, and they said, no. It only needs to be up to air care services. You need to pay for that. I said, no, that's not the rule. And so I decided to play my media card because I worked at the radio station back then. And they said, well, come get your air care. I pull into the parking lot to pick up my air care certificate, and the dude who sells me the car says, hello, sir, welcome to our dealership. Are you trading this in today? I said, so I said to the dude, I said, not only did you screw me on air care, but you can't even remember my name after I just paid $20,000 for this vehicle? Go F yourself. Never went back. I wrote a letter of complaint to ownership. Never went back. Nonetheless, we're going to take a break here going into the final hour. Strange news, weird news, and things that make you go WTF. Everett Themer from the Encounter Online is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back with more and the thought of the day after this.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from the UFO Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Themer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thanks for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, Geraldine Orozco is back with The Spiritual You, where we get into everything from personal zen to ET contact. We'll see where it goes. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network, including Deep Talk Radio. And, of course, our archives are free on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Autothaumaturgist. Autothaumaturgist is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you. There's going to be some changes on our website coming up soon. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read on the Encounter online, and so much more. Everett Themer is with us with a full show of the Encounter tonight. Weird, strange, and WTF news from around the world as we are looking on in at the strange stories that you may or may not have heard about that'll make you scratch your head sometimes and say, really? Really? Everett, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Not a problem. We've had a lot of weird stories tonight already, my friend. A lot of weird stories.
We have, and I have one here that it's not along the WTF line, but it's kind of along the WTF line. It's something that I think a lot of people missed, and that's that Google is allowing outside software developers to still continue to read your email.
What?
You know, back a few months ago, they had all their security issues, and in the past year, they've made the comments that they will no longer be reading your emails and that kind of thing. But when you read the terms of service, they are still allowing outside developers to read your email if they choose, to target ads to you, to mine data, to figure out demographics, to understand even things like at what point in the day you typically open an email that is targeted towards this kind of product, that kind of thing. So
Really?
while a lot of people are under the impression that, you know, your emails are secure and that nobody at Google will be looking at them, technically nobody at Google is looking at your emails. They have outside contractors to do that now.
Did they not learn anything from Facebook? Getting in heat with that?
Well, you know, I think that some of it is just that they are so big that, you know, maybe they don't care, in the sense that this isn't designed for some of the things that were going on at Facebook. This is entirely to, as so they claim, to figure out how to best maximize your Google experience.
Yeah, but they can always turn it towards, we're doing it for the sake of the company and the customer experience. They all do that. Facebook did that as well. But the question is, where is that information going? And if it's going to companies to see what they're looking at or what people are advertising and what kind of advertising they're looking at, I mean, once again, that, you know, that's data mining, you know, on a personal level.
And, you know, one of the things that kind of concerns me about this is that with a lot of people, sometimes the first place I give them my phone number is in an email. Yeah. So potentially they can just mine these names and numbers for telemarketers. And I right now, I typically get 6 to 8 telemarketing calls a day. Now, granted, a lot of it is business related, and that's kind of, you have to deal with that. But this has the potential to put an incredible amount of data about people out there in the hands of private contractors who maybe they're doing it to develop the ads more effectively, but then these lists are typically almost always sold to other companies unless you specifically opt out of that. But how do you opt out of a third party's list when you may not even know if you're on it?
Shouldn't there be a law or something that tells these companies that they have to tell people about this, that their data could be mined like this? I mean, it's just another way of really having Big Brother watching.
You're right. And in many ways, this is just a way for, it could potentially be a way for Google to hand off something that they were doing that people were complaining about. So they lease it or sell it to the rights to it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then back or gets it back. And essentially they've lived up to their terms of service agreement. Yet nothing has changed.
Everett, we got a call coming in. It's a BC number 778. Who's on the phone with us tonight?
Hey, Dave, it's Bill Hauser calling. How you doing?
Hey, Bill, how you doing, man?
Hi, Bill.
Very good. Hey, how you doing, Everett? I certainly enjoyed that conference over the weekend.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. It was an absolute pleasure being there. And Bill, you and I went for lunch and dinner, and we hung out quite a bit with Derek White Sky Cloud as well, and some other people, Sebastian Martin from Ensuho, and so much. It was just a blast and just a plethora of information, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And Johnny Enoch, yeah, he stole the show.
I was amazed, and I brought this up in hour number 2, Bill, and I'm curious to get your reaction from it. Johnny was the little known factor there. Not many people knew who he was. And for the fact that, to watch somebody who is very close to me in this show, and I know he has a lot of friends out there, such as yourself and Derek, who were there supporting him. I mean, to watch the ovation and the loud cheer that he got comparatively to everybody else who's been around this block for a couple of decades was pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, he presented himself very well. His presentation was awesome.
What did you like about the conference, though, my friend? Like, what really, really stood out for you?
Well, all the speakers, they all had their own, equally different opinions regarding how disclosure could, the whole thing sort of fall together, shall we say. And it was interesting to hear that. Some say, well, it's going to come next year. Some say 2020 and so on. So, yeah, it's very interesting. And then some say partial. I remember a few people listening after, in between the breaks, and they were saying, well, it could just be a partial disclosure. Everyone has different thoughts on it. So that's what was very interesting.
I want to ask you, because I brought up a point on the show, Bill, and you were there as well, so I'm curious to get your opinion of this. But being an American event talking about UFOs in Canada, did you think there was enough discussion about how this would affect Canadians, or did you think that it was just perfect the way it was, considering that we're all in this together?
Well, I'd say, it was good in a lot of regards how they talked about the different points, but yeah, they kept going back to the U.S. On a lot of ground UFO encounters and so on. So the thing is Canada's had its fair share of UFO sightings and weirdness. So Shag Harbour, there's many, many ones. The one in Manitoba, even BC had quite a few through the years. So, I mean, it's one of those things where we're starting to get recognized, but we're still, a little bit behind. But I think, shows like yours and other people's shows will bring it out more that a lot of that stuff's happening up here.
What would you change for next year for that event?
Well, definitely, like you mentioned a little earlier regarding the, they made a mistake with having the show, or the conference, I should say, booked on the end of the month and the next day, Canada Day. So, little things like that, could make a big difference. They could have gotten a few extra 100 people or more easily because, people want to go away for the long weekend, in other words. So, yeah, little things like that, they can look at it a little more, and maybe a few more Canadian speakers, maybe 2 more would be good, or have an equal amount of American or anybody else from any other nation there with, Canadian and so on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, I realize the majority of our audience is American, and this isn't putting down the American people or anything like that. But, it's the same kind of thing where if we held a Canadian conference in Seattle or LA or New York or somewhere in Alabama or wherever, and we're talking straight Canadian products. I mean, disclosure is a universal event. I mean, we cannot forget that, Everett. It is a universal event. But on the flip side, when you're in a different country, you have to cater to what is being said in that country, even though everything that revolves around disclosure seems to revolve around Washington, D.C.
It does.
Yeah,
and
definitely. Yeah.
Listening to Bill speak and listening to you guys talk about the Canadian perspective of this, I was wondering, here in the U.S., we've had a variety of different politicians speak out on various aspects of this. You have Fife Symington saying some things about the whole Phoenix Lights thing. Believe him or not, he's talking. You have different, I believe we covered the story of the congressional candidate who claimed that she had been witness to and abducted by aliens. So you have these different political figures coming out here in the U.S. Up there, you guys have Paul Hellyer. Are there any other political or very public governmental officials kind of speaking out the way they are beginning to in the U.S.?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you get the odd independent running, who is trying to change the world one joint at a time, who comes out with, things that every conspiracy theory, I think every, modern election has had one of those people. You get those people. But I mean, as for politicians that are actually sitting, no, not at all.
I'm surprised. Do you think that that's something that could potentially change here in the near future? I mean, you have,
oh goodness,
with statements Paul Hellyer has made, and with conferences like this, do you think that there's the potential to begin to open up the door to some of these politicians, maybe talking about experiences or things that they've seen or done?
I don't think so. I mean, Canada, you talk about the polarization that is happening in the United States right now on a much lower scale. It is happening here right now. It really is happening here. And, whether it's immigration or open borders or many other things that are happening in this country, people are really turning on the government right now. Gas prices are at an all-time high. A pipeline needs to be built, and it's not being built. So the government, who is rejecting that pipeline, goes and spends $4 billion in taxpayers' money to buy the pipeline company that is, with pipes that are 55, 60 years old. Their support, there's so many scandals going on right now with the current government that nobody really knows where to turn anymore. And Bill, maybe you're seeing it differently from a different point of view. I'd be curious to hear your point of view.
Well, like you say, the government's doing a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. Yeah, the pipeline, that's not popular out here in British Columbia with a lot of people. But, yeah, there are a few that still support it. But, when it comes down to it, governments for a long time were, given this thing about, some forms of alternative energy and so on. Let's go to propane and, things like this they did years ago, and natural gas, LNG. And here you got the federal government wanting to buy a damn pipeline. I just don't get that. That just doesn't make sense.
Well, the funny part for me, Bill, is the people who are protesting the pipelines are all driving in vehicles that are SUVs or bigger.
Yeah, well, you have that too, and a lot of things do generate from the petroleum industry. I mean, plastics and stuff like that, you name it. So we're very heavily dependent upon petroleum, no question about that. So, yeah, you have that factor as well with, protesters driving their SUVs out to the protests along the pipeline or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. It's kind of odd, but the UFO line up here, my friend Everett, and I think that was a good question, as it is World UFO Day. It is so far beyond reach of anybody right now that it's probably right where our military and the United States military likes it, if that makes any sense.
So you guys don't have the Canadian equivalent of a Bob Lazar or of a whistleblower person out there speaking about something the Canadian government
not yet
is possibly working on.
Not yet. Canadians don't like to ruffle feathers. We just like to be us.
Well, to get more Canadian speakers at a conference like that, you're going to have some people who are willing to ruffle a few feathers.
And there are people trying. Right? But when you don't talk about that subject, it's tough. It's very tough. And I would have liked to have seen one or two more. I mean, you got to realize, we may have Grant Cameron, we may have Stanton Friedman, we may have, Victor Vigiani and Johnny Enoch and others. But there's nobody but outside of maybe Victor Vigiani who is really pushing the Canadian side on this. What is Canada's role? I think it's starting to get there because Grant has brought it up. Even Richard Dolan has brought it up. There is Chris Rutkowski out there, but I'd be remiss not to say that, Chris Rutkowski, who is also a professor at the University of Manitoba, he's also very much into himself. He's like a minor version of Stephen Greer, but on a science. And what I mean by that is on a scientific level, on a personal level, where he's made himself so unavailable that it's tough to even know what he's up to. And in a way, it's pissed off a lot of people in the UFO community. Now, I did meet a gentleman, all right? I did meet a gentleman this weekend who we are going to have on the show coming up here in August, all right? He is a professor at Simon Fraser University. His name is Paul Kingsbury, and he actually got a grant, a university grant to study everything paranormal. From ghosts to Bigfoot to UFOs. And we're going to talk to him about that.
That is a huge step.
See, a guy
on so many levels.
A guy like that should have been speaking at this. Right? He should have been there. He should have been up on that stage. But I was surprised. And Bill, you brought up a good point. Nobody brought up the Canadian coin of the UFO event. That's kind of significant.
Oh, yeah, that as well. And many things, yeah.
So, go ahead, Ev.
I was just going to say there's an interesting dichotomy there that you guys in Canada are in one sense a little bit distant and closed about this, but then funding or giving a grant for actual academic research of the paranormal is a huge step forward in many ways.
It is. And to be honest with you, the university he is at, which is Simon Fraser University, I'm surprised he got it because they are the British Columbia universities in Vancouver. We have two of them. We have University of British Columbia, and we have Simon Fraser University, and they're kind of hoity-toity about things like this, a little stuffy. So for him to be able to pull this grant out of the university, I commend him. And, everybody should be waving a flag that a university professor has actually got a grant, he didn't say how much. I'm going to hit him up on the show, but he said a very healthy grant to take the time to study all of this information. And he's been out there looking for Sasquatch. He's been out there looking for UFOs. You know, and the one thing I like about him, and in my talks with Paul at the conference, is he's of actually the same opinion that we have brought forward on this show numerous times, which is he is so sick and tired of people using opinion as scientific fact that there's a lot of people he won't even talk to in this industry because he doesn't want to, you know, have any sort of bias whatsoever in trying to draw his conclusions.
That's a good policy.
Yeah. I thought so. I really thought so.
I'm just surprised that you would have a university up there that would do something like that, because I think there's only, I don't know how many, if any, universities in the U.S. are doing serious paranormal grant work. And I think that, I don't know, I think there was one or two colleges over in Great Britain or Europe that were doing some legitimate academic work and offering some form of academic coursework.
You almost have a better chance at winning the lottery than getting a sizable grant to study paranormal phenomena from a university in North America.
Well, he's got the weight of the paranormal on his shoulders now, because he has the potential to really open up some doors, especially for the Canadian experiencers and people like that.
Absolutely.
This is potentially, I don't want to say huge, but I mean, I'm really impressed and surprised, and I hope he does well. I'd be interested to hear what he has to say and what his plans are and what he wants to do.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see his work and get him on the show. And in fact, it was kind of funny because he said, you know, Dave, I know we were emailing there in order to try and set a date. I don't know what happened. I said, I think you got caught up in marking exams. And he goes, that's it. Because, I mean, he still has a job to do. And I got him at exam time, so he was marking final exams, and you know, we just kind of lost touch with each other, and, you know, lo and behold, go to Architects of New Paradigm, and boom, there he is. You shake a hand, and all of a sudden, yeah, I definitely want to do your show. I definitely want to talk to the Spaced Out Radio people and the listeners. So I think we'll all benefit from that. I really do believe we will all benefit from that.
I'm excited to hear him. Do you know when you're going to have him on?
Don't know yet. We were chatting today via text message. I sent him an email to try and set a date, so hopefully we will have something here in the very near future.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped up about it. I'm pretty stoked about it, to be blunt, and I look forward to having that experience. By the way, on Twitter, Marty at Retired Skeptic puts on a picture up there of a pig, and the title below it is, or the caption below it is, "Pig in Australia steals 18 beers from campers, gets drunk, and fights a cow." That is a great story. That is a fantastic story.
Leave it to those Australians.
Exactly. Exactly. My goodness. Bill, you're going to be on the show. You're on the show a week tonight.
That's right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be really good.
We got a ghost box this session to find out what happened to our guest tonight.
Yeah, that's very well, it does happen occasionally in talk radio as a no-show, but it could, you know, they could have had a good reason why they didn't make it.
No, absolutely. You know what's weird, though? I will say this. If ever I have a guest who bails on this program, no matter what the reason is, All right, because there could be a logical explanation. I mean, the guy hasn't returned an email in a week. And so for the people who don't know out there, what happens is, and Bill will know this as a guest, what happens when I book the schedule a week before the show, so every Wednesday, I send out what I call a confirmation email. So that way everybody knows where to find us on social media, where they can listen to the show, where they can tell their audience or their friends to listen to the show, and their information. So that way if they have a Twitter account or a Facebook account, we can share the show and the event with them and their followers, so on and so forth. We try and make it all happen. Well, I will say this. This gentleman didn't respond, and once again, we're hoping nothing bad happened to him. Because, I mean, that would be terrible if, let's say he was in an accident on the weekend and hurt himself pretty bad. I mean, hopefully he just forgot. Hopefully. I mean, that's the best case scenario. Snafu, we can all get over that, right? But it's weird. There's only two, we've had, every now and again you get a run of guests where all of a sudden it's cancellation after cancellation, and usually you have 4, 5, 6, 7 days to try and fill that hole. And you as the audience, you don't know. You don't know when that happens. So when I send out that confirmation, I'll get a response and everything is booked and everything is fine. No response from this guy. Okay, damn it, what do we do? But what I'm trying to get at here is the people who usually bail the most on this show, and it's been like this since the beginning, is paranormal people. I don't know why. Everett, you and I have talked about that behind the scenes quite a bit, because you kind of know a lot about what happens behind the scenes. And I can honestly say the most trouble we have on this show with people, no showing or canceling at the last minute without giving us any time to fill, are paranormal people. It's the weirdest thing. Well, Everett got dropped from Skype, so we got to add Everett in here. We'll get Everett in here right now. But Bill, I mean, here I am talking about Everett. We'll get Everett back in here, and I'll get his opinion on that. Everett, are you there?
I am here.
I was saying right when you got dropped, I'm not sure how much you heard of that, but what I was saying is you've seen a lot behind the scenes in regards to when we talk about guests and where we're going with the show and topics and everything. It always seems that the people who no show the most without any warning whatsoever, at least the history of this show shows it always seems to be paranormal people.
It does. And could that be chalked up a little bit to maybe they're nervous, they feel they're in a little above their head, so they just kind of back away and get a little intimidated?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. We're not intimidating around here. We're Canadian. We don't intimidate. We're everybody's friend.
You are a friendly sort, aren't you?
Well, we do try. We do try. But nonetheless, I mean, it just seems, that most of the troubles that we have had with guests over the years here have been paranormal. It's just weird. Like people will sit there, why do you have so many UFO shows? Well, they show up. They show up.
Do you think that could be because so many of these people get into the paranormal without any kind of media experience, and then they're kind of at some level a media personality, and they just get, I don't want to reuse the term nervous or anything, but all of a sudden they're in a position where maybe they don't know exactly how to react or how to do what they've agreed to do, so they back away a little bit.
Yeah, but they don't even send notes.
I bet the Canadian would.
Well, I don't know. I mean, either way, I mean, very rarely have I had a problem on getting a guest for a cryptid show like Bigfoot or a UFO show, even a psychic type show. But I've always been hesitant about, and I realize we got to talk paranormal. That's what we do around here, It's what we do. But if it's not returning emails or bailing at the last minute, it's always seeming, I would say 8.5 to 9 times out of 10, it has been somebody in the paranormal realm.
Well, as of right now, I mean, we don't know exactly what happened. I think it'll be interesting to see if he reaches out to you in the next day or two and has something to say. But it's sad when these people just kind of disappear or blow off an appearance, because it puts their abilities and credibility into question without a valid explanation.
Especially when you're advertising it and you got people looking forward to that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, we don't know the situation. It could be something. I mean, he may be in hospital with pneumonia. Let's hope not. Knock on wood. Let's hope not. Let's hope nothing bad happened. Let's hope that he just, for his health's sake, that maybe he just forgot or just didn't want to do it. But usually what happens is in a few days you get a note from them, or from most of the time, oh, you know what, I was sick, or my wife was sick, or my kids were sick, or whatever. Okay, so how does that, were they sick for a week? You couldn't even return an email? And you try and book another date, because I want to do the show with this guy. He's got, this documentary / movie type show coming out called, Paranormal Man, and I'm very excited to get it. Bill, I want to ask you, you're pretty highly involved in the paranormal field. You know a lot of people all around the world when it comes to it. What makes paranormal people, Bill, so inconsistent at times? And I'm going to put that politely, inconsistent.
Well, that's a good question, Dave. I really don't know. With every individual would be different, and some people are more courteous to give a message that they couldn't make it or whatever. Or if it, we have to give the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully, nothing bad happened to our guests there. So, yeah. So, but when it comes down to it, I've noticed too when I've communicated with people in the paranormal, they take sometimes forever to get back to you too. So you have that as well. So, but I'm just saying that is part of it as well. Is there? It seems that they have so much going at the time that their mind is scattered all around. That's one of my experiences with paranormal people.
It is strange. It is very, very strange, and I'm hoping that we, that, like I said, that nothing bad happened. It'd be horrific to find out that something horrid happened. That would be terrible. I know he was a veteran. Maybe he got called back into service or rejoined service and went overseas. I don't know. A lot can happen in a few weeks since we booked this show. Said he wrote it down. Put it in his calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
You never know.
Well,
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Well, we have to kind of, exactly. That's how I kind of take it, because it's first time having this guy. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, you have to kind of, it's when it comes down to it, I know, I've heard stories of other people, they've gotten busy with something else, or sometimes, they're just too busy with other things and they just don't know how to manage their time, I guess. I don't know. So, but again, I've had that experience where, you send a message off to somebody, networking, and then, they eventually get back to you, but it's like way past the time. Like, I've almost forgot about those questions I was asking you now.
Marty at #SpacedOutRadio. Hey, Dave, maybe it is because the paranormal people get themselves stuck in another dimension on a regular basis. Occupational hazard? Love it. Love it, Marty.
Yeah, good one. I like that.
Love it. It's an
Sometimes
occupational
I feel
hazard.
like I'm in another dimension.
No kidding. No kidding. It's like Groundhog Day, man. Just over and over and over again. Yeah, but, nonetheless, I mean, the thing that I was excited about having him on is there are so many Las Vegas stories of hauntings with, a lot of the casinos are very, very quiet about it, especially on the old strip, like Binion's, which was like a mob hangout. I want to know those stories. I want to know what kind of ghosts are running around, both strips, especially the old strip, Everett.
Oh, I love Fremont Street and the old area a lot more than Las Vegas Boulevard. I mean, the main strip there definitely has the lights and the glitz and all of that, but there are some off the beaten path areas that have some great atmosphere and some great history. And those are the places where I would prefer to be.
Yeah, they remind me, when you get into these older buildings, you notice older buildings, it doesn't matter how old they are, they all have their own smell. Just of history of, like 60 years of people smoking in them and the rooms and all this kind of stuff. They just have their own smell and their own aura. Whereas the newer casinos on Las Vegas Boulevard, like you said, they're all about lights, glitz, and glamour. And whereas the Fremont Street there, I mean, it's just so old school. I love it. I was supposed to be going down to Las Vegas in 2 weeks and joining some friends at the Golden Nugget. And I'm a little upset that I'm not going to be able to get down there for this. But, I mean, I just love it, hanging out there and just being a part of everything. And you're right. I want to hear those ghost stories. I really do. Maybe Marty. Marty's in Las Vegas. Maybe he knows somebody on the paranormal scene that we could talk to about this.
You know what I have never found in Las Vegas or at the Golden Nugget is that they have the giant nugget of gold. It's somewhere towards the back of the casino, I guess.
Yes.
I have never seen that. I've been there several times.
It's ugly.
I've never managed to get that far in.
It's an ugly piece of gold. It's like $8 million or something like that. One chunk of gold. It's kind of cool. Here's
going to have to bring her big lead line purse.
Exactly. Here's an interesting story about the Golden Nugget. They are up until recently, they were one of the only casinos on the Strip to serve a Caesar. Now, what a Caesar is, it's like a Bloody Mary, except in a Bloody Mary you use tomato juice, and for a Caesar you do a couple of other things, but you use Clamato juice. And the Golden Nugget was having so many Canadians come down, especially during the recession between 2009 and 2012, that they started ordering Clamato juice from Canada just to appease the Canadian alcoholics or people who wanted a drink down there of a Caesar. So up until recently, it was one of the only places that you could actually get a Caesar on the Strip, all because of the Canadian content. And if you never had a Caesar, it's really good.
Clamato juice isn't good. How can a Caesar be good? I mean, I guess if it has enough vodka in it, it'd be good. But it just sounds horrible.
You throw in some pepper, some Worcester sauce. You throw in, some celery salt around Tabasco, some celery salt around the rim. Throw in a couple of garnishes like asparagus or string beans or something like that. Man, you got to drink, man.
You know what? I'll stick to my bourbon and properly spelled whiskey.
What do you think, Bill? You're the judge on this.
A Caesar? What, a Caesar? I've had them a few times. They're not bad. They're kind of refreshing in the summertime, I find, if you're going out for dinner or something. I like vodka, so, yeah, definitely Caesars are nice occasionally.
Yeah, I'm a Caesar guy. I really like the Caesar. You come up here, Everett. We're going to introduce you to the Caesar, introduce you to Tim Hortons ice caps, introduce you to Putin. There's a lot.
You get me addicted to those ice caps, and I may not leave.
Well, Amy Martin did have a tough time going home, knowing that there was no Tim Hortons around where she lives.
It's tough. It's tough to not have a Tim Hortons nearby.
It is tough. It is tough. It's tough not having a Taco Bell or a McDonald's in your town, man. Try that.
No. But talking about Las Vegas, I don't know exactly what direction he was going to take this, but I would love to hear the history of like the Four Queens and I mean, that's a casino that things have happened there, but it's so overlooked. Or even the old Frontier, that's gone now. But there's so many. So the old classic ones, I want to hear, and I love to hear the stories of the things that have gone on in those places.
Not just that, but what about the old stories of aliens parking their UFOs at Area 51 and then, coming down to the Strip and partying at the Sahara? There's some weird stories about that, man.
I have never heard that before.
Oh, I'm going to Google this for you, and I'll read it for you. Aliens at the Sahara Hotel. Let's see here. I got to find this. I just found a really cool website called UFO Hotel. But there was an alien story about that. Now I got to find it. Of course, you can never find it when you want to. But there was stories about that.
Was it the Sahara or was it Circus? Because I remember hearing some weird things about Circus.
No, it was the Sahara. Because this was way before the stratosphere was built and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That one slipped under my radar, but I know what I'll be searching tonight.
Yeah, it's a real interesting story, and I gotta find it. We're gonna go to Bill. You want to stick around for the thought of the Dave?
Sure, I'll stick around.
All right, let's get to it right now. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where during the day we ask you, the audience, an important question. And it's on my Facebook, it's on our Twitter account at hashtag Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio. Today's Thought of the Dave goes as follows. Have you ever been attacked by a spirit? And if so, what happened? Bill, let's get your take. You ever been attacked by a spirit?
Well, I've had the energy drained out of me really bad, and that happened when I first started doing ghost hunting years ago in Victoria, when I went to the cemetery with some other people to do an investigation. Well, it's when I first started, so I didn't really understand, the whole thing about protection. Anyway, I was in there, and I started feeling kind of weird and lack of energy. And then one of the people said a little later, "You're really turning white." And so I had basically the energy drain. So I was feeling sluggish. Even my thoughts weren't quite clear. And so that happened. And then a few days after, actually it was about 4 days. It took me about that much time to get over it and start to feel better again. So yeah, it really hit me both physically and even mentally. So my mind wasn't clear and thoughts and everything. It just wiped me right out.
I found that story, Everett. Charles Hall, who's been on this show a couple of years ago, states that, I apologize, it wasn't the Sahara, it was the old Stardust Hotel. Apparently it happened in the 60s that the aliens like to unwind by donning disguises, including sunglasses, and hitting casinos such as the Stardust, surrounded by CIA handlers.
Okay.
Yeah, they were apparently tall whites. I think that's
Anything
awesome.
is possible. Anything is possible in Vegas.
It's Vegas, man. I mean, if it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen there. Anyways, I knew I'd find it. I'm going to have to get a hold of Charles Hall again and try and get him on the show because I need this story. I need this story. Okay, let's get to the thought of the day from a bunch of you out there. Mary Lou starts everything off. She got pushed and scratched on an investigation and once at home. That's eerie. I've only ever been scratched once, and I don't know how it happened. But you know when a cat scratches you and it kind of like stutters on its scratch? I had two, like one about 3 inches and one about 4 inches long, about an inch apart on my back. And they were that stuttering. And I remember, they were on my lower back. And I remember saying to Mrs. SOR, I said, come check this out. I said, I must have got scratched by the cat or anything. And she goes, well, do they hurt? I'm like, no. And they were all red and they looked fresh. And, a cat scratch usually takes, guys, a couple of days to get rid of, and you can still see the marks. I forgot to photograph them because I got caught up doing a bunch of other stuff. But the weird part about it is when I remembered like 4 or 5 hours later to take a picture of them, they were gone. Like there was no marks, no redness, no scarring, nothing. They were gone.
That's kind of a recurring thing with scratches like that, isn't it?
I don't know. I'd like to believe it was my cat brawling with me in the middle of the night, but I would have the scratches and the scars. I've had cat scratches before. They take forever to heal. I had one of my old cats scratch me right across the cheek. I had to grow a beard just to cover up the healing and the scabbing and everything.
So that's what started it.
No, but it is a good reason. But either way, it's a little weird. Skylar jumps in and says, yes, I have been attacked by a spirit. I was completely paralyzed once, and on another time was pulled from the bed I was sleeping in, leaving scratches on my legs. That one was a nasty one. In both cases, I chanted and had to run the jerks off. Not a pleasant experience, but better me than the client. Tim jumps in and says, no. Mark Spender, otherwise known as Bazooka Joe, opens up about his experience with the man in the barn. So I'm going to take some time to read this one. Bazooka Joe helps me out on our ghost tour, and he got attacked the last time. The tour before us had gone upstairs in the barn. That was off limits. As soon as I walked up to the second floor, I had pain of a headache in the front of my head. We experienced very little activity with the K2s in the barn. As time went on, I had a feeling of becoming very agitated. Then I felt very hot, sweat pouring off of me. I remember asking if anyone else was feeling okay or hot. Those that responded so said no, and it was actually cold in the barn. My stomach was feeling very upset, like being seasick, all the while becoming more angry. When I left the barn, I locked up as we went. This is where my memory of what happened gets spotty. One of the guests asked if I was okay as I was walking very slowly and unsteady on my feet. My head hurt, my stomach still felt very much upset. I remember saying, I will be okay, and we would deal with it. And that is the last I remember of the walk until I saw Dave, a.k.a. me, approaching him from the main house. I know I said something about that dude not being happy, but that's it. Then Dave grabbed me to ground my energy. I then felt better, but all I wanted to do was lay on the grass. The next day was a complete write-off, like I had been on a binge drinking event the night before. A complete hangover feeling, and that's all I remember. How's that for strange?
I would say that's an attack if there is one.
Bill? We still got Bill? Did Bill put us on mute? He's showing that he's there. We'll move on. Maybe Bill... Yeah, I still see him there. I still see him on Skype. All right, Jim Mallard, the duck, says, I watched it happen. I got no comment. Some guy named Everett jumps in and says, once, tequila came out of nowhere and knocked me out. Funny. That same bottle of tequila must have got me once, too. Bobby, in short answer, a light shot out of my chest and entirely disappeared. Now I'm not afraid of them because I know we are more powerful. Brandy, Brandy Wells, who's actually was on a guest on this show a couple weeks ago. She states twice on 2 different occasions on the 3rd floor of the Black Swan in Tilton, New Hampshire, a spirit scratched me across my back between my shoulder blades to get attention. Sandra jumps in. After a ghost box session, especially when I thought I had heard my name, later that night something jumped into me and I had to fight it off. That's eerie. Very, very eerie. Let's see what's happening over on Twitter. All right. PJ says, not attacked, but something was in the corner of an unused, partly blocked bedroom kitchen doorway. Soon after, a friend said had been a spirit in her house, but it was looking for someone. I believe it was my neighbor who died of a sudden heart attack in his kitchen. That left in a few weeks. Dave, it was actually a bit scary. I wasn't sure who it was until a friend and I spoke to each other. She was really frightened of what had happened. My neighbor who died, really? Talked about seeing his father in his hallway leading to his kitchen. We talked about the afterlife before he died. Very, very scary indeed. Let's move on here on Twitter. See what else comes up. For some reason, the Iron Sheik came up. Don't understand that one, but Graham says, from about 1981 up until 2015, I was routinely attacked by a black shadow form. It was in 1981 that my 2 friends were murdered, and one ghost of one girl would show up at night with her face badly burned. Since 2015, it has settled in more. I'm more at peace, but I remember both Emily and Christian. That's a sad story, man. Sad story. See where else we go with this one here. Well, that's about it for the Twitter crowd. Let's go over to Julien. This will be the last one for the night here, guys. I have an awesome story, Julien says. Take a drink and get ready. Not sure if this was a spirit, but I got that dream one time. Those dreams, you know, was like this house from my childhood, all nice to attract me to get closer. As I went in the house, I could see my old dog standing there, calm, waiting for me. Dog I used to be friends with, best dog ever. But in that very dream, something was odd. I went close to him, started hugging him, and then it started. It grabbed me. Like I could hear that voice talking to me, like a child's voice. As I got scared and felt trapped, some kind of arm from the abyss took me and saved me out of this trap. I feel it was something that knew me, playing on everything to attract me and trap me. That's what spirits are for me, Dave. Ooh, that's enough to send some goosebumps down the road. That's enough.
I got a few chills.
Yeah. Ooh. That's all right. That's right. Bill Hauser, did you figure out your phone yet?
Yep. Can you still hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Could have just been a glitch with the signal here. Sometimes our signal here plays havoc.
That's all right. Bill Hauser, thanks for stopping by. You will be on the show a week from tonight with another live Ghost Box session on the 9th. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yes, Dave, that was great. I enjoyed talking to you guys tonight.
Everett Themer, thank you so much for jumping on in to fill the void with some weird, wacky news tonight.
It's always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Where can people find The Encounter?
They can find The Encounter on Facebook at SOR, The Encounter Online.
All right, that is absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Tomorrow night on the program, Geraldine Orozco will be with us talking with The Spiritual You. It's a show that we do the first Tuesday of every month to find your personal Zen, your Chi, and maybe a little ET contact thrown in there for good measure as well. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. I apologize to the Periscope crowd. I will try and have everything figured out for tomorrow night. Everyone on Spreaker, thank you for the big chat. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks to everybody on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio and the Veterans Club, the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. Thanks for sharing the show. Thanks for talking us up, spreading the word, telling your friends, making us get bigger and better every single night, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now, and I'm looking forward to it. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one, everyone. Good night.
Totalitarian state. 1,000 eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching.